Hello, everyone. Lisa here. Today, we're diving into the fascinating life of Nolan Grayson, a formidable Viltrumite warrior. Nolan, also known as Omni-Man, brings a unique blend of strength and complexity to the Viltrumite narrative. If you find the content engaging, don't forget to show your support by liking the video, dropping a comment, and subscribing. Now, without further ado, let's delve into the captivating story of Nolan Grayson. Nolan Grayson, an extraterrestrial Viltrumite, was born on the planet Viltrum, with his father Argal serving as the leader of the Viltrumite Empire. Tragically, at a young age, Argal fell victim to a Viltrumite traitor named Thaddeus, who had renounced the violent ways of the Viltrumites. Nolan, being too young to retain memories of his father, had his true lineage concealed in records to protect him from Viltrumite adversaries, seeking to eradicate the entire bloodline of Argal. Following Argal's demise, another Viltrumite assumed leadership of the Empire. Thrag, specially engineered to be the mightiest Viltrumite, assumed leadership of the Viltrum Empire. In his early years, Omni-Man enlisted to conquer planets for the Empire and excelled to the extent of commanding his own unit. Approximately a century ago, predating the main storyline, Nolan engaged in a battle against an alien named Space Racer. Remarkably powerful, Space Racer wielded a mysterious firearm capable of defeating even Viltrumites. In a strategic move, Nolan chose to immobilize Space Racer by burying him alive on an asteroid, rendering escape impossible. Concurrently, Nolan embarked on a mission to conquer a distant planet for the Viltrum Empire. However, upon arrival, he discovered the planet was inhabited by a formidable species known as Ragnars. Possessing immense strength, the Ragnars' claws and teeth posed a significant threat to the Viltrumites. Recognizing the potential danger that Ragnars posed to the Viltrumite Empire, Nolan promptly reported the situation to their base. In response, the Viltrumite Empire took decisive action by blocking the sun of the Ragnars planet. This drastic measure resulted in the freezing of the entire planet, along with the extinction of the formidable Ragnars. Following a devastating attack on the Viltrumite Empire by the Scourge virus, which claimed the lives of 99.9% of the Viltrumite population, their numbers dwindled to less than 50 individuals. Faced with this unprecedented challenge, the Viltrum Empire recognized the necessity of a different approach to planetary conquest. Leveraging their extended lifespans, they devised a strategy involving infiltration and gradual weakening of a society's resistance before a takeover. In line with this new strategy, Nolan undertook the mission to conquer Earth. He set forth to the planet with the intent of executing this task, marking a significant shift in the Viltrumites' approach to interstellar dominance. On Earth, Nolan assumed the surname Grayson to blend in more seamlessly with humanity. He crossed paths with a woman named Debbie, whom he eventually married. Simultaneously, Cecil orchestrated Nolan's identity as Omni-Man, positioning him as Earth's newest and most formidable superhero. Following their union, Debbie gave birth to Nolan's son, Mark Grayson. Throughout the years, Nolan engaged in battles with supervillains, marking his initial encounter with the Guardians of the Globe, the world's premier superhero team. Although he refrained from formally joining their ranks, he collaborated with them on various occasions. During this time, he also formed a connection with Art Rosebaum, a costume designer for superheroes who crafted Omni-Man's iconic costume. To safeguard his true identity and mission on Earth, Nolan fabricated a false narrative for his human associates, including Art, Cecil, and even Debbie. This intricate web of deception concealed the extraterrestrial nature of his origins and the underlying motives behind his presence on the planet. Over the years, Omni-Man tirelessly battled numerous villains to safeguard Earth, all while raising his son Mark. Nolan eventually disclosed to Mark that he would inherit superpowers, accompanied by a false origin story. As Mark gained superpowers in high school, Nolan introduced him to Art, who crafted Mark's costume after he chose the superhero name Invincible. Their first joint mission involved stopping the Flaxans, However, Nolan was later abducted and held captive by the Flaxans, who temporarily neutralized his powers. Undeterred, Nolan regained his abilities and spearheaded a revolt, causing havoc in the Flaxan dimension. After 8 months in captivity, he escaped and shared his harrowing experience with Mark and Debbie. Deciding to initiate his final plan for Earth's Viltrumite takeover, Nolan revealed his true intentions to Mark while he slept. Manipulating events, he orchestrated a false call to the Guardians' base, leading to a brutal confrontation where he mercilessly slaughtered all of them, including the Immortal. The demon detective questioned Nolan, listing out suspects, and Nolan attended the Guardians' funerals before returning home with Mark. Contemplating plans for Mark's birthday with Debbie, Nolan and Mark watched a movie after Mark's friends departed. The next day, Nolan struggled with the idea of revealing his true origin to Mark. Frustrated, he attempted to broach the subject while Mark was in the kitchen, but Mark refused to listen. The ominous tension and secrecy surrounding Nolan's true motives continued to unfold. In a subsequent event, Nolan intervened to save a carnival from a monster, only to be confronted by the Immortal, whom he had killed previously. Mark arrived during their altercation, witnessing Nolan impale and bisect the Immortal. In the aftermath, Nolan disclosed his true Viltrumite origin to Mark, detailing the race's ruthless pursuit of a perfect society achieved through the elimination of the weak. Nolan explained that anyone resisting takeover was eradicated, and invited Mark to join him in conquering Earth. Revelations continued as Nolan disclosed that Mark would live for thousands of years, witnessing the passing of everyone he loved. Mark, however, staunchly refused to allow Earth's conquest. A heated dispute erupted, leading to a devastating battle where Nolan punched Mark through buildings, causing widespread casualties. The argument intensified, with Nolan claiming Debbie meant nothing to him, a statement Mark vehemently denied. As the conflict escalated, Nolan questioned Mark about what he would have after living for so long. Mark asserted he would still have his father. In a shocking turn, Nolan, on the verge of killing Mark, decided to spare him. Flying into space, he grappled with conflicting emotions, realizing his love for his son and wife. Unable to kill Mark, Nolan resolved to take over another planet, hoping to lessen his sentence for deserting the Viltrum Empire. Arriving on Thraxa, Nolan discovered a society with a brief 9-month lifespan, ruled by the oldest individual. Leveraging his millennia of experience, Nolan effortlessly assumed the role of ruler without a fight. He sent a Thraxan to bring Mark to Thraxa, and upon their reunion, Mark prepared for a confrontation. However, in a surprising twist, Mark broke down in tears, and Nolan, moved by his son's emotions, embraced him instead of continuing the conflict. In the aftermath of the conflict on Thraxa, Mark implores Nolan to return to Earth. But Nolan, burdened by his actions, insists that what he has done cannot be undone, and he must stay on Thraxa. Leading Mark to his private chambers, Nolan reveals that he has formed a new family on Thraxa, including a mate named Andressa and a son with unique purple skin. He explains that the Viltrumites consider this genetic difference a flaw, putting his son at risk, and acknowledges that his time on Earth has altered his perspective. Nolan seeks Mark's help in defending Thraxa from the impending arrival of the Viltrumites. When the Viltrumites do arrive, Nolan asks Mark to ensure the safety of Andressa and his son. Engaging in a fierce battle, Nolan disembowels Lucan, believing him to be defeated. However, he discovers Lucan is still alive after being ambushed. Despite a valiant effort, Nolan's spine is broken and he is taken prisoner. During his imprisonment, Nolan shares a cell with a member of an unknown alien race, who notices his emotional turmoil. Nolan confides in him about missing his wife, and despite an attempted escape thwarted by Craig, he finds solace in the unexpected friendship. Craig, having inflicted damage on Nolan, plans to execute him. Amidst the turmoil, Alan communicates telepathically with Nolan, revealing plans for Mark's role in the war between the Coalition of Planets and the Viltrumites. Nolan, initially reluctant, agrees after learning of Alan's struggles with the Unopans and the restrictive Viltrumite customs regarding love. As a Viltrumite arrives to kill him, Alan intervenes, breaking out of his prison cell with Battle Beast. In the ensuing battle, Alan and Nolan team up, delivering a fatal blow to the Viltrumite. The gory confrontation unfolds in space, symbolizing a turning point in the struggle against the Viltrumites and showcasing the alliance between Nolan and his newfound ally, Alan. In the wake of the Viltrumite threat, Nolan assures Alan that there are fewer than 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left in the universe, easing concerns about additional reinforcements. Nolan proceeds to disclose the origins of the Viltrum Empire, detailing their transformation into an unbeatable race and expressing apprehension that Earth might become a breeding camp. Alan, alarmed by this revelation, gears up with Nolan and the two head to Telescria. Visiting Alan's apartment, Nolan interrupts a moment between Alan and Telia. Despite Telia's futile attempt to harm Nolan, the trio embarks on a mission to consult with Thaddeus, a Viltrumite who has rebelled against the Empire. During their meeting, Nolan provides Thaddeus with crucial information about the Viltrumites, including the revelation that Thaddeus himself is a Viltrumite who had unknowingly rebelled. Thaddeus entrusts the duo with a mission to uncover a spy within the Coalition, emphasizing their direct reporting to him. Nolan and Alan journey to an asteroid belt to retrieve a gun owned by the presumed dead space racer, leading to a surprising discovery that he is alive. Overcoming initial resistance, they convince Space Racer to ally with Telescria, earning praise from Thaddeus. Assigned various missions, Nolan and Alan encounter both success and setbacks. As they navigate their roles, Thaddeus reveals a darker aspect of his involvement by disclosing his creation of the Scourge virus, emphasizing its potential use if the war becomes dire. Their next mission brings them back to Earth, where they recruit Mark to join the fight against the Viltrumites. Subsequently, Nolan and Alan visit Tech Jacket on his space station, securing another ally for the impending conflict. Nolan then seeks forgiveness from Debbie and invites Oliver to join them on Telescria. During their journey, they are ambushed by Conquest, Lucan, and another unnamed Viltrumite. Conquest, relishing the chance to kill Nolan, engages in a brutal battle. As Oliver confronts Lucan, Nolan intervenes to choke Lucan. The Viltrumites unleash a conquered alien race, prompting Oliver to flee to a nearby habitable planet. Rushing to Mark's aid, Nolan and Oliver arrive to witness Conquest dead, and Mark gravely wounded from the brutal confrontation. The stage is set for a pivotal moment in the war against the Viltrumites. In the aftermath of the intense battles against the Viltrumites, Nolan tends to Mark's wounds and buries Conquest. During Mark's healing process, Nolan takes the opportunity to connect with Oliver on a personal level, deepening their relationship. As months pass and Mark fully recovers, Nolan discloses to him that he was the one who killed Conquest. The trio, consisting of Nolan, Mark, and Oliver, resumes their fight against the Viltrumites and heads to Telescria to contribute to the war effort. With their return, Thaddeus organizes the Coalition and its allies for the final confrontation on Viltrum. The group arrives, but Thaddeus is ambushed by a Viltrumite woman. Battle Beast and Thrag, along with some Viltrumites, join the battle. Space Racer and the Ragnars also enter the fray. Anissa attempts to suffocate Nolan, prompting a fierce exchange. Thaddeus seizes Mark for a plan, with Nolan following closely. They charge into Viltrum and successfully destroy the planet's core. Nolan is briefly subdued by Viltrumites, but is released after a shockwave. Aligning himself with Thaddeus, they face Thrag's rage. Thaddeus is brutally killed by Thrag, leading Nolan and Alan to prepare for a final showdown against the remaining Viltrumites. As the battle unfolds, Thrag almost kills Mark, but Nolan intervenes to save his son. Thrag reveals that Thaddeus killed Argal, the Emperor of Viltrum, causing the Empire's downfall. Nolan, indifferent to the revelation, expresses his belief that the Viltrumites deserve extinction for their tyrannical actions across the galaxy. Thrag retaliates by impaling and disemboweling Nolan. Both Omni-Man and Invincible are left on the brink of death, floating in space. Thrag surprisingly decides to spare their lives, and they retreat from Viltrum. 2 weeks later, Omni-Man recovers, finding Oliver in a stasis tank. Alan informs them that there is no Viltrumite activity in the galaxy. Mark suspects the Viltrumites might be hiding on Earth, prompting them to return. Mark and Nolan confront Thrag, who proposes a truce in exchange for the Viltrumites taking over Earth. Mark reluctantly agrees to prevent potential harm to humanity. Thrag departs, thanking them and ending the Viltrumite War. Mark heads to Eve, while Nolan and Debbie have a heart-to-heart conversation. Debbie expresses her longing for the past, but Nolan acknowledges that things can never return to the way they were. Recognizing the need for honesty, Omni-Man informs Mark and Eve that he and Debbie will be going to Telescria to work on their relationship, marking a significant chapter in their lives. In Telescria, Nolan notices Oliver engaging in crime-fighting activities, and together they visit Debbie. Alan expresses concerns about pressure from the Coalition to eliminate the Viltrumites and sends Nolan, Debbie, and Oliver to a new place. The next morning, Alan reveals his plan to release the Scourge virus into the Earth's atmosphere to handle the Viltrumite issue. Nolan vehemently opposes Alan's plan, leading to a heated battle. Alan launches Nolan into space, and their conflict escalates until Oliver intervenes. As the battle continues, Oliver lands a blow on Alan, siding with him and supporting the implementation of the virus. Nolan, on the other hand, believes that Earth will change the Viltrumite mindset, as it did for him. The Coalition military arrives, arresting Nolan, but he is later released when Alan realizes the flaws in his plan. Alan then sends Nolan back to Earth to monitor the Viltrumite situation. Upon returning to Earth with Debbie, Nolan discovers the shocking news that Mark is dead. However, Mark soon appears, revealing that a clone was killed to deceive everyone. Later, Cecil approaches Nolan, asserting that he must face consequences for his previous battle with Mark. Cecil imposes exile on Nolan, instructing him to stay on the Guardian's moon base and keep an eye on the Viltrumite warship. After Cecil departs, Nolan and Debbie prepare for an intimate moment on the moon base. However, Thrag ambushes them with the intent to kill Nolan. In a desperate attempt to save his wife, Nolan engages in a fierce battle with Thrag, puzzled by the betrayal of their truce. Thrag reveals Nolan's true origin as the son of Lord Argyll, the former emperor of the Viltrum Empire. Despite Nolan's protests that he has no desire to rule, Thrag insists on killing him. Thula, Lucan, Anissa, and Craig intervene, discovering Nolan's heritage and turning against Thrag. Together, they beat Thrag for keeping this secret and attempting to kill the Emperor's son. Despite their anger, Nolan requests that they spare Thrag's life, and they bow to him, acknowledging his new role as Emperor. The turn of events marks a significant shift in Nolan's fate and sets the stage for his unexpected ascension within the Viltrumite hierarchy. After his unexpected ascension to the role of Emperor of the Viltrumites, Nolan delivers a brief speech during his inauguration, emphasizing the need for the Viltrumites to embrace change influenced by their time on Earth. He takes a hiatus to heal and visits Thrag in his holding cell. Despite Thrag's suggestion that Nolan should kill him, Nolan rejects the idea, opting for a more progressive approach. Fully healed, Nolan brings Thrag before other Viltrumites to serve his sentence. Instead of execution, Nolan decides to exile Thrag. Thrag leaves the Viltrumite warship, and Nolan relays the news to Alan. Nolan also encounters Mark, and they head to the moon. Mark reveals that Eve is pregnant, and Nolan congratulates him. They later have dinner together, where Eve accidentally reveals her pregnancy to Debbie. During a friendly arm wrestling match between Omni-Man and Invincible, the table is destroyed, causing frustration for Debbie. Later, Nolan informs Mark about Monster Girl's discovery in space and her stable condition after surgery. Anissa reports the location of Robot, prompting Nolan to ally with him. They reach an understanding, and Nolan and Robot prepare to leave. When Mark attempts to attack Robot, Nolan intervenes, revealing their alliance. Mark insists on confronting Robot, but Nolan refuses, stating stating that inaction is the safest course to avoid unnecessary risks. Anissa's interruption further complicates the situation, leaving Mark silent and eventually departing the warship. Learning that Mark is leaving Earth, Nolan shares a meal with him and Art. He bids farewell to Mark before departing with Eve and their child to Telescria. Subsequently, Invincible is teleported to a different timeline, where an old version of Omni-Man from another world attempted to conquer Earth. Upon Mark's return to his original timeline after 5 years, Nolan reunites with him on the moon, expressing a warm welcome. Nolan also becomes friendly with Robot during their collaborative efforts to stop the technicians. As Mark reintegrates into his world, Nolan shares a private chat with him about his newfound friendship with Robot, marking a significant development in their relationship. In the midst of the chaotic events, Anissa interrupts and attempts to talk to Mark. However, she gets attacked by Eve, leading to a tense moment. Nolan intervenes to help Anissa, but the situation becomes more complicated when Eve almost reveals Anissa's past actions towards Mark. Confused and angered, Nolan starts to strangle Anissa, but Mark intervenes, stating that it's not her fault. Despite Anissa's attempt to explain, Nolan orders her to leave. Later, Nolan takes Mark to Earth to meet Robot, who tries to convince Mark of the positive changes he has made in the last 5 years. Mark privately expresses to Nolan that he will never trust Rex despite Nolan's persuasion. Mark, Eve, and Tara then leave for their home after bidding farewell to Nolan and Debbie. Following Oliver's death at the hands of Thrag, Omni-Man attends his funeral. There, Invincible confronts Alan, blaming him for Oliver's death. As they engage in a fight, Omni-Man contemplates intervening, but Debbie stops him, urging him to be a good grandfather and take care of their grandkids. Later, Alan seeks Invincible's help to defeat Thrag, who has amassed a formidable army. Invincible asks Omni-Man for assistance, acknowledging him as the new Viltrumite emperor who can command others under him. Initially reluctant, Omni-Man eventually agrees to help end Thrag's threat. Omni-Man and his team embark on a mission to attack Thrag's controlled worlds, but they face unexpected challenges when they reach Thrag's planet. Thrag's massive army, consisting of thousands of hybrid Viltrumite children, overwhelms Omni-Man's forces. Despite the strength of Omni-Man and Invincible, the sheer number of Thrag's army proves to be a formidable challenge. Omni-Man and Alan order a retreat, but Thrag follows them, leading to a final battle on Earth. Omni-Man rallies the Viltrumites on Earth, preparing them for the impending confrontation. Before the ultimate clash, Omni-Man and Invincible have a heartfelt conversation where Invincible reveals the trauma of Anissa's past actions. Omni-Man reassures Invincible that Anissa has changed. As Thrag's forces attack Earth, Omni-Man and his allies engage in a fierce battle. While Omni-Man and his Viltrumite warriors are formidable, Thrag's overwhelming numbers pose a significant challenge. The intense conflict unfolds in space, with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. In the climactic confrontation, Thrag taunts Omni-Man, expressing that Omni-Man should have killed him when he had the chance. Thrag delivers a powerful headbutt, breaking Omni-Man's hand and preparing to finish him. However, Invincible arrives just in time to intervene, attacking Thrag to save his father. Thrag's children counterattack Invincible, allowing Thrag to refocus on Omni-Man. In a display of strength, Omni-Man manages to break Thrag's nose, earning Thrag's begrudging admiration. Thrag acknowledges Omni-Man as the only one capable of leading the Viltrumites after him, but asserts his intent to reclaim his position as their ruler. Thrag ruthlessly stabs Omni-Man's heart with his arm and, utilizing his immense strength, obliterates Omni-Man's torso. The gruesome scene leaves Alan, Invincible, and others in tears. In a fit of rage, Invincible retaliates by killing all of Thrag's children before confronting Thrag directly. Eve arrives in a spaceship, rescuing the still-breathing Omni-Man. Medical professionals attend to Omni-Man's critical condition, confirming that he is alive but facing severe challenges due to the damage to his heart. As Invincible manages to defeat Thrag in the subsequent battle, he visits Omni-Man, who remains in a critical state. Omni-Man reveals to Invincible that Thrag damaged his heart, preventing proper healing. Knowing he doesn't have much time left, Omni-Man has a final heart-to-heart conversation with his son. In his last moments, Omni-Man passes on the mantle of leadership to Invincible, declaring him the new emperor of the Viltrumites. With these words, Omni-Man breathes his last, leaving Invincible to carry on his legacy. That wraps up today's video. Thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate your time and attention. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.